meeting to order. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Anybody want to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
And I wasn't here for this first meeting.
But
So
this is
this is
just
for the agenda.
This
Oh,
is
there's
just
the agenda?
not
Oh,
the
then
minutes.
I second the approval of the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now the minutes,
Okay.
we have to look over them. Okay, you were not
I
here.
was not here.
I'll move to
I-
approve the minutes from last meeting.
Can I second even if I'm doing this?
Probably strictly by Robert's rules, no, but, it's, you know, if
I
you're
don't see
uncomfortable
anything
seconding
wrong
not
with
having
it.
been there, I don't think
I'll
it's a big
second,
deal.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Oh, abstain, okay.
You got a majority of the quorum, so it passes.
Okay, written
But I don't know if you
communications
can
from the
second it
public.
and then abstain.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Um, Well, I didn't see anything wrong in the minutes, if that makes any
Yeah, I
difference.
I can-
Okay.
Public comment, we have nobody here to make public comments, no written communications, right?
Correct, not that you haven't been,
Yes.
CC'd on.
So old business, capital needs,
I don't know that there's been any, huge move on that, and my recommendation would be to defer it.
Okay.
But I can give an update, just quickly.
Okay.
Good, good.
Yes.
We won the sign out front on Franklin
Oh, that's
Street
right.
got repaired. Remember the lights were,
oh,
the
yeah,
Franklin, not
Take a look.
So take a look at it.
night.
Oh, I'll look
Looks great.
tonight.
Yeah,
Looks
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
okay,
And there's LED lights, so it should be a lot brighter, and it should be a lot wider, okay? The second thing is, had a couple conversations with our Johnson Controls people. Remember the air handling system
yeah,
that needs to be done? Well, we're gonna, a month ago, met with them, they updated the same characters. They updated their analysis, talked to them yesterday, they're gonna send it back, and I'm setting up a meeting where they're gonna come in and kind of discuss with us, you know, what it is we're gonna do, so we can get that project defined. Because the time we would wanna do that is in the spring, you know, cold season to warm season, you know, as the temperatures
yeah,
change.
yeah,
That's one time we would wanna do, you know, one of the things, boiler or, HVAC.
Right.
And then the other time would be in the fall, so that's moving forward, and we'll keep updated on that.
And my understanding is, kind of related to this, that we'll have grass seed or sod planted by May 1, is what I was told, so that's cool.
Actually, I mean, how's it, generally, any feedback on the parking lot, I mean, patrons?
I would say
Staff?
overwhelmingly positive on both sides.
Okay.
There've been a few negative comments, but I would say, given the ratio that I've been hearing, and I've asked staff too,
The frontline staff has been very, a lot of positive comments.
and they love, especially on a day like today, they love having covered parking.
Covered parking, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so everybody's parking in the lower,
I'm not, I'm typically the only one not, but I am when it's snowing,
yeah,
so.
okay,
that is actually nice to park down,
Yeah.
if you're at work all day.
yeah. And, okay, so for the patrons are generally satisfied.
I would say overwhelmingly what we're, at least of those that are saying something, it's positive.
And is the, you know, with the issue, there was some discussion about maybe not enough parking spaces. Have we run into any issue where there's better overflow?
Yeah, a couple of
Yeah.
times, but it's pretty temporary, and in those times, what I saw was, I walked out and I said, okay, everything is taken here, and there are people driving around trying to find a place to spot, but I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces on this street, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces on that street. And then when I went up to my car, I'm still the only one parked up there.
Is there any way that when we have an event here, that we just get signs that say event parking and point at the parking garage?
Yeah, and we
Just
will.
get a sign made,
That's
library
maybe not
event
a-
parking.
It's probably not a bad idea, and the other thing that we're gonna put just as a matter of course in our promotional materials is additional parking available on Main Street, on Prairie Street, and in the garage on both levels across Main Street. And also, we can, Kim and Mike have offered, from Novel Ideas, have said, you know, get in touch with us in advance, and we'll be happy to, you know, as long as it's not, you know, day before Christmas, you can use our additional parking. So, and there's a sidewalk in between, so, that will be, and that'll give them a shout out to, you know, additional parking, generously provided by Novel Ideas, so.
I just like the idea of having a sign at the beginning of the parking lot that just says,
I agree.
Yeah.
event parking at the park, you know, however you want to describe that garage, and then right in front of the garage, have put up a big sign that says library event parking.
You
and
could leave it
arrow.
there all the time, so
Yeah.
we're talking about something that's there all
Or
the time.
library.
No, I was
or
just
parking.
talking about something that we put up whenever there's a big event,
And it's-
and if you put it up when there's a big event, people will notice it because it's not there all the time. If it's there all the time,
You don't see it.
no.
Well,
But if
and
it's something that's put up, I'll be like, oh, that was on the sidewalk yesterday as I drive
That's right. And
by.
the thing that's confusing for some people is that, you know, there's no entrance here off Main Street. It's off of Franklin or Wood.
Right,
So,
right.
but I agree, I think it's a good idea to let folks know. There is
I mean,
more, there are.
And how
more
much would
spots.
it cost us? I mean, for like a one-time thing, we just
Well,
have
I mean,
that
the city
sign
has their own
put
shop,
up
so I'm
over
sure we
and
can
over
work
and over.
something out there, so.
One other question, with the staff parking over in the garage now, there's a crosswalk that goes from the garage area across to this side of the street. And I remember in the fall, there was some concern over the way they had the parking spaces when that crosswalk was put in, that cars could be parked close enough where, you know, they might not see pedestrians getting ready to cross.
I'm the one to express that concern, because when we were parking way out there, every time I'd be approaching that crosswalk, you basically almost have to come to a stop to see if somebody's, you know, especially if there's a van or an SUV parked. And honestly, I don't know, did they block off one of those? Since we moved into the parking garage, I haven't noticed.
But people the employees are crossing the street on that
Is
crosswalk.
there good lighting at night
Yes,
for
they
that?
do.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Everyone I've seen is they went down to the crosswalk and they went
Yeah.
across. You can find this on the strip.
But the point is,
Can you be
for me, that
seen and?
if nobody's complaining about something, it must be safe, it must be reasonably safe that no one's coming to review it.
I think that
complaining about
danger. I think we're just being cautious. We're stopping and looking for cars rather than just assuming people are gonna stop for us, like we're crossing Main Street in Milliken or something.
I mean, is there any way that we can put something up there, like
There-
we have
there
in
is.
Milliken,
Well,
like
there-
in the middle of the street, I mean?
Flashy light.
Well, there's in the middle of the street there's a painted crosswalk
No, I don't
and
mean
two
a
signs.
crosswalk, I mean like a sign that sticks
Well,
up. out
there
of
is
the-
there is signage.
In
going
the
for-
middle of the street.
I see what you're saying, yeah, I don't know about that. That's,
Well, I know we talked to the city before, they put up the signs, they did that crosswalk thing. And then, you know, that's why I was asking the question, if that was a solution, that was a solution. If people are still complaining or feel it's unsafe, then maybe we need to do something.
well, I was worried about safety as a driver, you know, because I
Okay.
couldn't see if somebody was coming out from
Okay,
the library portion until I got right up there, if there was because, I mean, like, here's the crosswalk, right, and,
A car parks right up there.
A car's parked right up, and I'm like, I gotta get up there before I see if somebody's, it concerned me, so I almost came to a complete stop every time, just to check. But I think most drivers are just continuing to treat it like Main Street's always been,
Yeah.
you know, so we're just watching out for it.
It's reflective paint, so you can see it.
but none of the employees are complaining kind
No,
of, saying that there's a problem.
Yeah, it's not that you can't see the crosswalk,
Right.
it's that you can't see if a person is walking out,
Into the-
depending on how the cars are lined up that are parked on the street,
Right.
and which direction you're coming from. I think coming from the west, heading east, it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
It's from the east heading west it was one that was, and
I
I
can see
honestly,
that.
I forgot, once I stopped parking over there, I forgot about it. And as a pedestrian walking across there, I stop and look and make sure nobody's coming. Which,
You should be.
people should be doing anyway.
As opposed to this, when you cross the street.
Right.
Exactly, which is what usually happens.
Okay. So, space plans?
We've had a committee meeting, we've met 3 times. We've got staff and various stakeholders. We've got a couple of people from this board represented, a couple of people from the foundation board, somebody from the Friends board. Next week, we will meet with the architects and sort of talk about our service priorities and how they compare to the drawings they have and come back with some suggested tweaks.
I think it's very exciting, I'm on that committee.
Well, it was a good meeting today.
Very fun to.
Oh, it was a good
look at
meeting today,
spaces and- I mean, now that we've had the setup to that meeting.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of, as Robert and I have talked it through, and Robert's he's dug into the construction grant and the nuts and bolts of it, and had a couple conversations with Mark Schaefer from the State Library who's administering that grant. I don't have much confidence that we'll be able to cobble together an application for this year. I really don't. I mean, it's April, and that's when it's due, and it's, it'll, yeah.
So are you talking about subtle changes or radical
No,
changes?
radical.
Really?
Yeah, we've also got John Kinseth on the committee. I forgot that's one of the stakeholders, and we invited, we wanted the city to get involved sooner rather than later. And the only thing he said is that in a conversation with Mr. Wright, and that a strong preference that there would be no increase of the library's footprint or decrease of the library's footprint. Although, if the board wanted that, he wouldn't intend to stand in the way. His preference would be keep it the same size.
Basically, we just want the library to flow a little better, and there are certain things that are gaping holes, like the gaping hole is teens.
Yes.
I mean, that's a gaping hole in our library, and I have a teen, I know kids that are teens, it's just a gaping hole.
And I think
From
that-
like 12 to 18,
Yeah.
Just hardware.
we're losing patrons that we could be keeping.
And I think as far as the footprint goes, I don't think there's any of us that are dead set on expanding or shrinking either. I think, let's work with the space that we have.
We've got pretty good space, and if we reconfigure it.
Oh, we've got
we can
plenty
make
of
it-
space.
We
Yes.
could make it pretty amazing, I think. And the thing is the first plan didn't really do that much change to the library, but it was expensive. So like, if you're actually gonna be spending a lot of money,
Mhm.
we wanna get something for our money. We wanna get like better flow, I don't know, anyway.
So this will be going on for a while, but we'll introduce the committee and the architects for the first time next week. So,
It's space subject, but outside instead of inside. There's work to be done, grass has to be planted and stuff like that, but one of the plans for the grounds outside is that would be green space that you could use in some fashion. You guys have you had any more discussion about that?
Yeah, it was brought up today, and it's not really specifics, just that, and we talked about something that you've talked about a lot. Your name was spoken in the meeting, because you've talked a lot about an area out here under the canopy where perhaps families could, something that was enclosed in some way with a fence or something, and where families could go and sit on a nice day and read to their kids or whatever. We've got a late April, early May program coming, a traveling exhibit. It'd be great if we put it in the grounds. We're not going to be able to do it at that time, but we could. It's not huge. We'll be able to do it under the canopy, but something like that would be nice. And you know, we'll do again in Central Park, we'll do the summer reading kickoff this year, which was really successful. But I think it'd be nice if we could do it, you know, in you know, the library's space.
Because that area becomes more of an extension of the.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, but it's yeah, I think I think it was a real good discussion today, and there were some very good ideas, and it'd be interesting to see how our architects respond.
You know, I'm kind of excited to, you know, we, all this, you know, for how long did it take about discussion about doing the parking lot? And then we did it, it's the fall, so it gets finished, it goes in the winter.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of anxious to see what's it gonna be like when it's spring, and when the weather gets nicer, and when the grass gets planted.
I agree, because we've already gotten, as I say, you know, pretty overwhelmingly positive feedback. So, you know, compare it, you know, when it's actually going to be pleasing to the eye, I think it'll
Flowers
be.
blooming.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
So is there any other business? So now, check registry, new business.
I don't know if you guys had any questions. I wanted to point out a couple of things. One, because it's huge, on the page one towards the bottom, Gale Group, $23,697.12 for a database package. That is a package of business resources, literary resources, nursing and health resources, news resources, legal and legal forms, and academic. It's a huge package of resources. We'll talk a little bit more about usage in next week's meeting, but I will tell you that database usage went down just a little bit in 2019, largely due to a very weak December. I mean, it just almost need to go back and look at those numbers again. It was just a really, really bad December. But I did some figuring on cost per use. So for all of our electronic resources, not just the databases, but also the circulating ones, it's roughly about $2.15 per use. Compare that to physical materials, about 72 cents per use. So on page 3, about halfway down, this is a ProQuest information. Full through local history database. We're going to give it another year. We just didn't perform as well as we had hoped. It's a veterans history database, and we like it, although it's not probably as good as we thought it was. We're going to give it another year and see if it performs a little bit better. I wanted to point out our one travel cost is a reimbursement. Just, I put the request as the next document in your folder. We just shorted her the month before. We didn't pay her for her travel to the airport, and she, you know, what she requested was less than she actually paid. So this is just a makeup for what we didn't pay her.
And is that Hoopla, is that for the year, or is that?
Nope, that is, honestly, without double checking, I don't know if that's a month or even a quarter. I mean, we make, typically on Hoopla, we make deposits.
I'm just
and we
asking
draw
because
down.
I actually use Hoopla a lot.
Yeah, and Hoopla it's probably the month, because Hoopla is about,
I use Hoopla anywhere from 1 to like 4 times a month.
Yeah, and I use it pretty frequently too, and Hoopla is anywhere from $2 to $4 per use. It might be $6, depending on how new the material is and what type of material it is.
Now, are we using Overdrive still, or did we?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And we buy those an item at a time.
I feel like Overdrive, I'm done with it.
We're looking at a way to, we're hoping, so, you know, these wasteful travel things that we do. One of the things that we're going to do in 2 weeks from now, I'm not going to, but Alyssa and Alex are going to have dinner with some people from Biblioteca who think they can help us if we want to, migrate our overdrive materials to the 3M Cloud Library. 3M Cloud Library would be accessible directly through the library's catalog. So you can find it in there and click borrow, and you've got it. So I'm skeptical that it can be done, but they're gonna be meeting with representatives from Bibliotech to see if it can be done. And I think it'd be a much better deal for us and for our patrons. So if any other questions on? There's a new, and we talked about it a little bit when we developed the budget, but I just want to point it out, there's a new budget line this year, expense line, lost or damaged books. It used to be when we got a bill from another library, so when one of our patrons borrows something from their library and they either lose it or damage it, we get the bill, we pay it, and we turn around and attempt to collect the money from our patron. We've been putting that under professional services because there's just no other place to put it, and so it is now its own line. But compare that to what our revenue line for lost or damaged books, which we've always had, was $418.52 this time. So if there are no other questions, what we'll need to do is take a motion, and this is the roll call vote.
And this is a motion to present it to, as is to the board, right?
Correct.
Okay, well,
I'll move to present the check register to the board as is.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Passes.
Okay, so the budget report.
Yeah, I mean, it's January, it's February, but this is, with data up through January. January is 8% of the year. You'll see our property taxes are lumpy, they don't come until no earlier than June, but our other revenue, we've collected 9% of what was budgeted, so we're ahead of schedule on that. We're under budget on personnel. For a variety of reasons. I haven't quite fully explained it to myself yet, so I'm still looking at that. I didn't think it would be that much under.
What's the budget? Is the budget the year divided by 12?
Well, no, I do it by 13. So for payroll, I do it by 13.
13.
Well, when I'm projecting, I divide, so this 7.2% is so we've spent 7.2% of our personal budget for the year.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of January, we should be at 8%.
Okay.
But if you take this 1 month's worth of data and take it times 13, and you do times 13 because there are 2 months that have 3 pay periods. So there are a total of 26 pays.
Okay.
And we'll get to that with the projection, but
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, essentially the one thing that is a little odd is we really went to town on book buying, but then again we had that $23,000 database in there, so that's what explains most of that. So and the projection is part of this report, so I will talk about that. Usually I don't in February give you guys a projection. So the projection is how I think, this is what our plan is, and projection is how I think we're really going to do. I think the way I'm doing it is a lot more sophisticated than the way I was doing it 4 or 5 years ago, but it's still only a little bit of data, so just keep that in mind. We're on a pace to far exceed state replacement tax, and I'm accounting for the lumpiness of it in this projection. So I don't know whether it will pan out or not, but that's a big difference. We're also way under on service to office equipment, and I think that's because I have yet to make my decision whether I want to continue some service agreements or not, and I'm really leaning against
For the book handling,
and the self checks and
Self-checks.
yeah. So, but you'll see here I'm projecting a big difference, quite a big difference in personnel. Now, we're not fully staffed, so I wouldn't pay a whole lot of attention to that yet. I would say at the end of the first quarter is when those numbers will start to make a little bit more sense. But right now I'm projecting quite a surplus, but that's a pretty early projection.
Yeah.
So. Happy to answer any questions if there are.
It's super early in the year.
Yeah.
It's hard to, once you get into it, like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, typically I don't even put a projection in front of you guys until April when I have a whole quarter under my belt, but I think I've found some more accurate ways to do it. I worked on an algorithm to kind of account for the lumpiness in some of our budget lines, and it'll be fun for me to see how accurate it turns out.
Well, there you go. Well, I think it's nice that you're, diligently keeping track of it month by month, even if there's not lots to talk about this month.
And we got our transfer to the reserve fund May, right?
Yeah, that was done in December.
Mhm. So I thought.
Yeah, so this, if you look at the budget spreadsheet and look at the flip side, at the bottom it'll kind of tell you, the balance sheet kind of tells you our cash position. And you can see that we started the year with a total of roughly $9 million between all of our funds. That's roughly $500,000 over what we were January 1st last year. So, and by February 1st, we were down to 1.7 million. And that's not operating fund, that's all funds.
So do we need to move the budget report?
No.
I don't think so,
No,
no.
that's a discussion item.
And then this annual report to city council, but,
Yeah, so next week at the annual meeting, I'll present the full board with 3 annual reports, but I wanted to give you guys a sneak preview of the this one is mostly financial. I wanted to give you, this committee, a look at the financial report beforehand. It's essentially the same as the final budget report that I gave you guys. There have been a couple of minor tweaks, because the books weren't yet closed then, but nothing that's substantial at all. This is even though it's interesting because the city keeps our books, but state law requires the board to report to the city mayor and city council the financial status at the end of the year. So,
I have a question. I'm looking at, of the annual report, the fiscal year 2019 annual report. I'm looking at page, what would it be, page 5, second last page. And at the top, run over from, in paragraph G, run over from the previous pages, the capital fund. We've got over $300,000 in the capital fund now. Which is, I mean, that's really good. I mean, if you think back to 4 years ago, I mean, we didn't have any anyway.
we didn't have a fund.
We didn't have it. But, okay, premature, don't get overexcited, Brad, but what do you spend money on?
Well, I mean, that's, ultimately, it's the board's decision. My recommendation would be to have some of it set aside for repairs to major equipment. So if we can get rid of the service agreements without a worry, and that we invest some portion of it in whatever remodeling plans that we settle on.
I was kind of envisioning a remodeling plan,
Yeah.
basically, as a seed money,
Yeah.
for
Yeah, it's a drop in that bucket, but it's still,
It's a start, and when we
it's a
ask you
start,
for money, at least we have something to say.
Exactly.
We already have
Right.
a lot amount of money.
but I'd still like to, and I haven't dug into exactly what that would be, but I'd like to have a certain amount of money set aside for, rather than giving Linkso $15,000 a year and Biblioteca $10,000 a year, in case there's a problem, why not?
It's the biggest racket.
Yes,
Just
why
stands in my-
not set it aside?
That's 25 a year, maybe we can, if we don't have a problem, we can
Yeah.
stick in the bank.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, that's the thing is if you have enough money sitting there, it's
You're
better
selfish,
to just
Yeah,
self-insure
yeah.
yourself.
Biblioteca's kind of trying to strong arm a little bit, so I'm wrangling with them right now. Because they're saying, well, you don't get the license, you can't get the licensure without having the service plan. I'm like,
That is a racket.
I said, okay,
I'm not sure if that's legal, but I don't think
I
it
said,
is.
I don't think that's right, and can you explain to me why? And they basically just gave me, it's like they talk louder and slower. You can't have that, in an email, and I said, okay, you just said the same thing in different words. That's not explaining to me why, and so now we're playing phone tag, but. I said, I could buy, for that money, and I got an M7, and last year I got Linkso down to 12 for 2 years, which they wanted 16,000. But, at the 10, the roughly 10 that Biblioteca wanted, for that $10,000, we could buy a new self-check kiosk.
Exactly.
So I think all these companies have a little bit of a racket going on. I mean, just for example, like I have XM radio in my car. Every year I call them, I tell them I'm not gonna pay what they want. Like this last year it was $226 and something cents. Can't afford it. I mean, probably could, but, and the next thing you know, $90 for the year.
Son of a gun.
So I think, you just have to keep asking these people for less money for the same thing.
And I just, but when pressed last year, I got the price down quite a bit, but when pressed last year, so what's the downside to not having the license?
Right.
If there's an upgrade, and there hasn't been since we've had it, so we've had it for 2 years now, if there's an upgrade, the system may not work anymore.
Why not? It won't
Well,
work.
I mean,
If we didn't buy the license.
You should have so how much is the license then?
Well, the licenses were very reasonable, and I said, I'll buy the license, so you gotta buy the service agreement. I'm like, why? No, I don't.
That's ridiculous.
Well, that's just our policy, it's not my policy.
Yeah, but that's not, I mean, that's policing.
So we'll continue to talk about it.
Okay.
We're happy with the product, and, something that, a phrase that I think I may have learned from Robert that I find pretty effective is, I really enjoyed saying nice things to you guys, about you guys. We're in a consortium of 450 libraries, and I really enjoyed saying nice things about you guys. It's a shame that has to stop.
Another question about the capital fund. Somewhere, I seem to recall having read, don't know where, that, the library statutes only allow us to have so much money in cash reserve, some formula, and if we get past that, we're supposed to do something.
I reported to
the state.
I report to the state every year, what we have and what it's for. I think you can't have unearmarked, so I say it's for capital improvements.
Okay.
And I think that's legit.
Well, especially since we have a committee that is
Right,
actually,
right.
we can
Right.
show
So,
them minutes, we can
but
show them
I
progress.
think there is legislation, I don't know if the bill's ever gone to the floor, to set a cap regardless of what the purposes are for. And in one sense, you can understand that. I mean, it's not,
You
you
don't
know.
want to overtax.
Yeah, public institutions aren't
Right.
there, but on the other, there's also something that's, you know, having this fund is prudent, you know, it's prudent, especially when we owned the property and we had no fund, I mean, that's why we began to do this. It wasn't given that the property was gonna be sold, so, you know, better have something in reserve, you know?
Well, and like you said, because we have the fund, we're able to say to this company, we don't wanna spend $10,000 on your service
Right, and
agreement.
that's,
Whereas if we didn't have the fund, we would have to spend $10,000 on the service
yeah,
agreement.
and I think next year, that's what I'll propose saying to both things to them. But every year every year in the IPLAR, the Illinois Public Library annual report, which I'll be presenting to you guys, you two have already seen it. I tell them what excess funds we have in reserve and why, what it's for.
So that's not gonna come up in bias.
I-
I mean, you'll.
My
you'll
understanding-
debate that.
Here's what happened, when the state started tanking, like 10 years ago, they were looking under every rock for money. And then they found out that many of the small rural libraries have enormous reserves, like millions.
Probably because they got donations from.
Well, they did, because every
Estates.
widow and,
Yeah,
you know,
Rich farmers.
farmers left them their land, left them their money, didn't have anybody else in.
right.
Yeah.
I'll just use Cerro Gordo for an example, because I know how much money they had at one point, and it was in the millions.
Okay.
And
okay.
so they're looking at all these Ziplars going, whoa, you know, Blue Mountain has, and well, maybe we'll just take some of
Okay, all right,
that. And so that was the genesis.
okay, okay.
Yeah, and you know, and you could make a strong argument that, you know, a public body of that size should not have millions. You know, that we're not
That's
taxing,
what the state wanted to say.
you're not taxing people to see how big your bank account can get. You know? So you're taxing people to use it, so.
But when it's a donation, I mean, donations typically are, you know, I'll give you this money and you can spend it only on this.
But that's the other thing, is you know, it was a
Restricted funds or
Right.
non-restricted.
It was a
Some are
banker-
non-restricted.
It was a banker on my board up in Iowa who I got, you know, I got there and they had $250,000 in a fund, and I got real tight with that fund, and he said, Rick, people donated that money to the library to spend it on the library,
Right.
not to see how big we can build the account.
Yeah.
So it's okay. It's okay to turn, so we're gonna keep at least this much in, X number of dollars in, but we're gonna use it. It's supposed to be used. So it's just,
I personally would love to see this library renovated, so, and just
Yeah, yeah.
reworked and everything, so I see benefit in maintaining some cash reserves.
well, I am asking that this committee either recommend or not recommend this to the full board for approval at the annual meeting.
Should we make a motion to recommend to the full board at the annual meeting?
I'll second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
So it passes.
should you, last page, should you fix that, the spacing? Looks like the last sentence is supposed to be a separate paragraph.
Yes, I should. No, I have something unrelated to this for you to sign, that OSHA form. We keep forgetting every time you're here.
I know, it's.
They're where the X is.
Well, is there any other business?
Just update from you guys on that water problem we had a month ago or something. I'm told it's all resolved, but is that what you guys
My
think?
understanding, it got resolved in one day essentially.
Yeah, didn't even take a whole day.
Okay, so it's, everything's fixed?
Yep.
Okay, okay. I guess it wasn't caused by the construction, but somewhere else, I know a tile sewer pipe kind of collapsed, and that caused a blockage in the line that led to sewage from the first floor restrooms not to get out to the sewer pipes, and it backed up into the, I don't know, restroom area on the first floor or something like that?
Yeah, the staff restroom area on the first floor, and then the hallway that goes towards what used to be the loading dock.
I'm not so sure if it was sewage, I think it more.
Dirty water.
Dirty water, yeah,
Sewage.
It was,
Yeah.
more dirty water,
Yeah.
yeah.
Storm sewer, or not sanitary
So gray
sewer.
water.
Yeah.
Gray water.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah, and we got, well, you guys got CERT Pro in here, and because the baseboard's got, there was some dampness in the walls, so they came in and got it all dried up and cleaned up.
Good.
So, anybody like to make a motion?
To adjourn,
Mm-hmm.
move to adjourn, 5:10.
One second.
Okay,